"Your stuff is already in the attic," she said with a fake smile, tossing my childhood memories into cardboard boxes like they were junk mail. I blinked at her, still standing in the doorway of the room I hadn't set foot in since college. It looked different now, sterile, curated, like a Pinterest board brought to life. The lavender curtains I picked out when I was 9?
Gone.
The creaky wooden bookshelf Dad and I built together? Replaced with a sleek white vanity. What do you mean? I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. Jessica twirled her engagement ring and shrugged. Mom said I could have it. You moved out, remember? The smell of my old vanilla-scented candles still lingered in the corners. But everything else, everything that was mine, was gone. Just like that. That was the moment I realized. She didn't just want a room. She wanted my place in this family. My name is Emily Harper, and I was born in a small town outside of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm 29 now, but for most of my life, that little yellow room at the end of the upstairs hallway was my sanctuary. It had one crooked window that looked out onto the maple tree in our front yard, where I used to hide notes in a birdhouse for my grandma. She always said that room had good energy, like it held onto the best parts of who I was becoming. I was the eldest daughter, the first to read, the first to break a bone, the first to graduate. I did everything I could to make my parents proud. I stayed home on weekends to help with chores, turned down college parties to video chat with my little sister Jessica when she felt anxious, and I even gave up a summer internship at a New York design firm to help Mom recover from knee surgery. I thought that's what family meant. Sacrifice. Support. Showing up. But Jessica, she always had a different idea of family. She was the pretty one, the charmer, the girl everyone gushed over at church and PTA meetings. If I got an A, she got flowers for a C. If I stayed in to study, she got praised for balancing school and fun. My accomplishments were expected. Hers were celebrated. Still, I never let that get to me. Or, at least I told myself I didn't. After I left for college at 20, I told my parents to keep the room exactly how it was, just in case I need to come back for a while. I didn't say it aloud, but part of me always hoped that room would be waiting for me, like a lighthouse on the shoreline of my life. And for years, it was. Mom would text me updates. Still haven't changed a thing. Your books are exactly where you left them. Grandma would joke that my room still smelled like cinnamon and ambition. Even when I moved to Atlanta for work, even when I signed a lease, even when I bought my first couch, I felt safe knowing that my childhood room still existed. It was more than a space. It was a memory capsule. A promise that I still belong somewhere. Then Grandma passed away. Quietly. Peacefully. And everything changed. It was Jessica who called me. Of course it was Jessica. Barely waiting until I caught my breath to say, "By the way, Mom said I could use your old room. I want to turn it into my bridal suite. The light's perfect for makeup pictures." At first, I thought it was a joke. She knew how much that room meant to me. Everyone did. But when I came back for the weekend after the funeral, I found the room repainted in blush tones, with gold accents, floral wall decals, and all my childhood things packed in boxes in the attic, without so much as a phone call. I sat down in the hallway that night, clutching a photo frame from one of the attic boxes, one of me and Grandma, arms full of paintbrushes, mid-laughter after we'd redecorated the walls during my junior year of high school. That room had history. My history. And Jessica had erased it like a smudge on glass. What hurt the most wasn't the room itself. It was what it represented. A family that kept me on the outside, even while I held the door open for everyone else. I kept hearing Grandma's voice that night. "People will take what you give, honey. And if you keep giving without a boundary, they'll take the parts of you meant to be sacred." Jessica's engagement had turned her into a whirlwind of entitlement. Wedding boards. Pinterest dreams. Group chats I was barely included in. She once told Mom that her dream wedding was elegant and exclusive, something nobody could replicate. I remember her laughing in the kitchen about how she deserved the best. And apparently the best included taking my childhood room. I should have spoken up then. But instead, I just retreated. Packed the rest of my old things. Smiled politely at the family dinner that night. Listened to Dad toast to his girls while Jessica batted her lashes and I sipped my water in silence. I left early the next morning. Back in Atlanta, I tried to bury it. I dove into work. I'm a freelance interior designer, mostly small-scale restorations and sentimental redesigns. Funny, right? I helped people reclaim old spaces all day, while I had none left for myself. One night, I was reorganizing my design files and came across a dusty envelope with Grandma's handwriting. It was dated the month before she passed away. Inside was a letter and a deed. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then I read the lines again. Grandma had left me her old event property, the one she and Grandpa used to rent out for weddings in the 80s and early 90s. It had fallen out of use and was mostly known around town as that old white farmhouse behind the chapel. I'd only been there a few times as a kid, but now it was mine. The whole thing. The letter was short, in her familiar cursive. Emily, I know how this family can be. I also know how much you give, how little you ask. This place needs love. But so do you. Let this be yours. Do what you wish with it. Make something that belongs to you. I clutched that letter like it was a lifeline. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. I drove down the next weekend to visit the property. It was dusty, worn, and full of potential, just like me. As I stood in the middle of the creaky old reception hall, light pouring through the stained glass windows Grandma had once picked out, something shifted inside me. This wasn't just a gift. It was an opportunity. And when I found out a week later that Jessica had already set her wedding date, and that she was desperately hunting for a unique venue because her first choice had double booked, well, I knew exactly what I had to do. I waited. Patiently. I didn't text Jessica. Didn't confront her. I just watched from a distance as her wedding planning circus spun itself in circles. Venue after venue was either unavailable or too common, as she put it. Her Pinterest boards were overflowing with barn aesthetics and vintage chandeliers, and she was slowly spiraling because none of them matched the vision she believed she deserved. One night, I got a call from Mom. "Jess is stressed, honey," she sighed. "Everything's falling through. She's saying she might just have to do the reception in the church basement." I could hear the disappointment in her voice. Not disappointment for me. Not for what was taken, but for Jessica. It stung. It always did. But I smiled through the phone. "That's tough," I said. "She'll figure something out." And then I waited some more. 2 weeks later, Jessica finally called me. Her tone was syrupy sweet, the kind she reserved for favors and manipulation.
She sang.
"Hey sis, I was just thinking about you. Listen, I heard you've been fixing up Grandma's old place." Here it was. I leaned back in my chair, looking out over the quiet property I had been restoring piece by piece. "Yeah," I said casually. "A little work." "Why?" "Well," she paused, pretending to be hesitant. "You know my wedding's coming up fast, and I've been having so much trouble locking down a venue that feels special. But then I remembered Grandma's place. It's perfect, isn't it? Vintage, meaningful, and come on, it's family." I said nothing. Just let the silence stretch. She kept going, nervous now. "So, I was wondering if you'd be okay with me using it for the wedding? Just the ceremony and the reception. One weekend. You're not even using it yet, right?" I felt the heat rise in my chest, but I kept my tone calm. "Actually," I said, standing up and walking across the wooden floors I had just polished, "I am using it. I've been investing a lot of time and money into restoring it. It's not just some abandoned property anymore."
"Oh,"
she faltered. "Well, I mean, obviously I'd pay you, like, a rental fee or whatever. We can do it through the family, you know?" I walked to the front porch and looked out at the sunset behind the chapel. The old trees swayed in the wind, casting long shadows on the gravel driveway. Grandma used to sit right here, humming hymns and drinking sweet tea. I took a deep breath. "Jess," I said slowly, "are you sure you want to use this place?" "Of course. It's gorgeous and private, and it's sentimental. Grandma would have loved it." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Then maybe you should take a look at something first." "What?" "I'll email you a file. It's a copy of the deed. You'll see who owns the property now and what the rates and policies are." There was silence on the other end. Heavy.
confused.
You what? I own it, Jess. Grandma left it to me. It's officially listed under my business now. I've already filed the papers and registered the property as a private venue, with contracts and rules.
She didn't speak.
I'll email you the brochure, I added, voice cool and measured. But just so you know, I've had other inquiries for the same weekend. So, if you're serious, you'll want to act quickly. Now she spoke, her voice shrill. Wait, Emily, you're going to charge me? I'm your sister. I stayed silent again.
Calm.
Unmoving. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're kidding me. You're going to make me pay to use Grandma's old farmhouse? That's disgusting. What's disgusting, I said evenly, is gutting my childhood room without asking, turning it into a vanity station, and pretending like my history didn't exist. That's not the same. It's exactly the same. You took something that wasn't yours. Now I have something you want. Only difference is, I'm giving you the option to earn it. She scoffed. You've really changed. No, I said. I just stopped being the girl who lets people walk over her. I hung up. The next day, I sent the full event rental packet to both her personal and work email, along with the rate sheet. It wasn't cheap. I had spent the last month bringing the venue up to code, repairing plumbing, hiring a local carpenter to restore the oak beams in the main hall, replanting flower beds. I even refinished the vintage altar where Grandma and Grandpa had been married 50 years ago. I'd poured my time, my energy, and my soul into this place. I wasn't going to hand it over to someone who didn't value it. Or me. For 2 days, I heard nothing. Then Mom called again. Emily, she said, low and tired, I wish you two could just work this out. Jess is in tears. She says you're trying to ruin her wedding. I closed my eyes, holding back the flood of frustration. I'm not trying to ruin anything, Mom. I'm running a business. She asked to use my property. I gave her the same offer I'd give any client. She's your sister. She's also the one who took my room, remember? There was a pause. That was a misunderstanding. She thought you were done with it. She knew what it meant to me. Everyone did. But no one said a word when she turned it into her bridal prep suite. I didn't get so much as a warning. Just boxes in the attic. Mom sighed. You're not being very gracious, Emily. And there it was. The old script. The guilt. The gaslighting. I am being gracious, I said softly. Gracious is offering the same venue she erased my history to get married in just at a fair price. When I hung up, I felt calm. Not angry. Not petty. Just free. That week, I got an email from a couple looking for a last-minute venue. Their barn wedding had fallen through due to weather damage, and someone in town had recommended my place. After a tour and a quick contract, they booked the same weekend Jessica had wanted. I sent Jessica a short, professional email letting her know the date was no longer available. I offered a backup slot 2 weeks later, still at the same rate. No response. A few days passed. Then a text. You're a bitter, selfish child. I hope you're proud of ruining the biggest day of my life. I stared at the message, then deleted it without replying. Grandma used to say, the loudest people are usually the ones who feel the smallest inside. The town was buzzing. Apparently, Jessica had gone on a tear through her wedding vendors. Screaming fits, refund demands, and last-minute cancellations. Her original florist had dropped her. The hairstylist she flew in from New York canceled after phone call laced with what she called verbal abuse. And now, according to a family friend, Jessica was trying to move the entire wedding date just to spite me, without having a venue to host it. I didn't engage. Instead, I focused on my new clients. The couple, Jeremy and Allie, were warm, grateful, and utterly low maintenance. They fell in love with the chapel's charm and the garden's arch I had just finished building with hand-carved cedar. They asked if they could use the altar. I told them I'd be honored. As their wedding approached, I received another call from Mom. Emily, she began, in her now usual tone of exasperated neutrality. We need to talk. Hi, Mom. I answered evenly. I just got off the phone with Jessica, and she's in real distress. Her reception hall canceled, and the church's AC broke down. They're saying it might not be fixed in time. She's desperate. And this has what to do with me? I asked, though I already knew the answer. She still wants to use Grandma's place. Just for the ceremony. Not even the reception. I pinched the bridge of my nose, breathing slowly. I already told you, Mom. That weekend is booked. I know, she said. But that's family. Can't you move the other couple? Offer them a better date or a discount or something? I stared at the phone, stunned. You want me to cancel someone's wedding so Jessica can have what she wants? She's your sister. She's also a grown woman who made her choices. Mom's voice cracked. You don't know what it's like, watching your daughters tear each other apart. This is supposed to be a happy time. A wedding should bring us together, not pull us apart. That would have been nice, I said quietly. If anyone thought of that before bulldozing my bedroom. A long silence. Then she added, maybe if you weren't so difficult all the time. There it was again.
Click.
I hung up. I didn't need another conversation trying to convince me that standing up for myself was being difficult. 2 days before Jeremy and Allie's wedding, I got a knock at the door. I opened it to find Jessica standing on the porch, wearing oversized sunglasses and a designer trench, like she was hiding from the paparazzi. She took off her glasses and stared at me like I was a stranger. This is all because of the room, isn't it? No, I said. It's about respect. Something that's been one-sided for far too long. You were gone. You moved away. You never even visited that house anymore. Why did you care so much about that room? Because it was mine. And you knew that.
But you didn't ask.
You didn't call. You just painted over my memories and claimed it like you always do. She huffed. You're being dramatic. It's not like I burned your journals or something. You did, actually, I said, arms folded. There were notebooks in that room. Some of Grandma's letters, too. Gone. That stopped her. I didn't know.
Exactly.
You didn't care to ask. She stepped forward. Okay, fine. I messed up. But I'm asking now.
Please, Em.
I just want one part of this day to feel right. Can I have the ceremony here? Just the vows. I took a breath, feeling that old instinct to bend, to give in. But then I remembered Allie's tearful smile during her venue tour. I remembered how Jessica had made me feel small, unimportant, disposable. No, I said softly. Her eyes widened. No. I've already promised the space to someone who respected it and me. And I don't break my word. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the woman in front of her. You really think this makes you better than me?
No.
I think this makes me me. The version of me that doesn't sacrifice everything just to keep other people comfortable. Her face twisted. You're jealous. That's all this is. I let out a short laugh. Jealous of what? A wedding built on guilt and entitlement. She glared at me. You'll regret this. No, I said. But you might. She left without another word, her heels clacking angrily down the porch steps. The next day, I heard she tried to book a tented wedding at a public park. The permit fell through. Her wedding day forecast showed rain. A florist canceled. And someone leaked the drama to a wedding gossip Facebook group. She was now that bride in town. But I didn't celebrate. Instead, I focused on love. On the couple who chose my venue with grace and joy. Jeremy and Allie's wedding was magical. The rain held off just long enough for their vows under the garden arch. Laughter filled the chapel. Guests sipped cider on the porch. I walked through the house, making sure everything was perfect, fluffing pillows, adjusting the catering table, lighting the lavender-scented candles Grandma once loved. I stood in the hallway that used to echo with childhood Christmases and family drama, and for the first time, it felt like mine. Halfway through the night, as Jeremy danced with his mother and Allie with her grandfather, I caught sight of someone outside the fence line. Jessica, standing in the shadows under an umbrella, in a coat too thin for the chill. Watching. Her makeup was smudged, her hair undone. She looked lost. She caught my eye for a moment. We held the stare. Then she turned and walked away. I didn't call after her. I simply turned back inside, where warmth, love, and music waited, where I had chosen a different kind of legacy. 3 days after Jeremy and Allie's wedding, I received a small, white envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name, Emily. Inside was a photograph. It was a picture of my childhood room, taken during a Christmas morning years ago. I must have been 7. I sat on the floor in my pajamas, my hair a frizzy halo, grinning up at the camera with a half-unwrapped dollhouse in front of me. Behind me, Jessica leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, looking more curious than engaged. A post-it note was stuck to the back. I found this in a box Mom gave me. Figured you should have it. Jay. It wasn't an apology, but it wasn't nothing. I tucked the photo inside a drawer of my office desk, right next to Grandma's letter opener and a stack of blank thank you cards. A reminder of what was, and how far I'd come. That week, Allie stopped by with a basket of leftover wedding favors and a warm loaf of pumpkin bread. She hugged me like I'd been part of the family forever. "You don't know what this place means to us," she said, wiping her eyes. It felt safe. Real. Like a home, not just a venue. That's when it hit me. I hadn't just protected my memories, I'd transformed them into something bigger. My pain had created purpose. My old scars had made space for someone else's joy. I spent the next month finalizing paperwork for a new venture, turning Grandma's house into a full-time wedding and retreat space. A place for women-owned vendors, for mentorship, for art, for healing. I named it the Garden House. Mom didn't call for weeks. When she finally did, it was different. "I wanted to say," she began, her voice softer than I'd heard in years, "that I've been thinking about everything." I didn't interrupt. I realize now, I didn't treat your things like they mattered. I was so focused on helping Jessica, I forgot to listen to you. I sat down at the kitchen table. It hurt, I admitted, but it also pushed me to finally grow out of a place I'd been stuck in. I wish I could take it back. You can't.
But you can visit sometime.
Come see what I've made. She sniffled. I'd like that. We didn't talk about Jessica. I didn't ask, and Mom didn't offer. It wasn't time yet. But the silence between us didn't feel sharp anymore. It felt like a pause. A breath. A door slightly open. That weekend, Lisa came down from Portland to visit me. We drank cider in the garden under fairy lights and laughed about how she once dared me to dye my hair green in middle school. "I still think you should have done it," she said, winking. "You'd have rocked it." She was quieter than usual, though. And just before she left, she confessed something. "I'm thinking about leaving Brian," she said. I blinked. "Seriously?"
Yeah.
"I've been thinking about it for a while. Seeing you stand up for yourself, build all this, it made me realize I've been shrinking." I squeezed her hand. "You deserve to take up space, Lisa. All of it." She smiled. "You always were braver than you gave yourself credit for." That night, as I locked up the chapel and turned off the porch lights, I thought about how cycles break. Not with loud declarations or grand gestures, but with small choices.
One no at a time.
One honest conversation. One boundary. A few weeks later, I got an email inquiry. Subject: Event space availability, baby shower. From Jessica Matthews. I stared at it for a long time. The message was short. "Hi, Emily. I was wondering if your venue would be available in May. I'd love to host a small shower. Just close friends and family. Let me know if it's something we can talk about. No apologies. No explanations. Just a request." I didn't reply right away. Instead, I walked through the hallway again. Past the picture frames. Past the door that used to lead to my room. Now repainted, softened, transformed into a bridal prep suite with warm lighting and velvet curtains. I placed a hand on the doorknob and smiled. When I replied, I kept it short. "Hi, Jessica. Thank you for reaching out. May is a busy month, but we can talk. Let's discuss expectations and boundaries first. Warmly, Emily. Not cold. Not cruel. Just clear. Growth doesn't always look like revenge. Sometimes, it looks like peace with conditions. Sometimes, it looks like finally trusting yourself enough to stay rooted while others figure out their own storms. And sometimes it means letting people come to you, not because they've changed completely, but because you have. It was early morning, just past 6, and a warm breeze danced through the lace curtains of the guest room at the garden house. I stood on the wraparound porch, sipping coffee from Grandma's old floral mug. The birds were chirping. The garden beds were full, peonies, lavender, roses, and the wind carried their scent gently toward the house. This place used to be a battleground of memories, of what was lost, what was stolen, what was never said. Now it felt whole. 3 months had passed since Jessica emailed me. She followed up once, then again, this time a little more open.
We talked briefly.
She didn't ask for favors, just space. A way to step in gently on my terms. Eventually, I agreed. Her baby shower was modest. Just 20 guests, homemade food, and a quiet moment by the fountain in the garden. She wore a soft cream dress, and her hair was swept into a simple braid. She looked different, calmer,
Softer.
Before she left, she placed a small wrapped box into my hands. I saw this in a store in Seattle, she said. It reminded me of Grandma. Inside was a delicate ceramic hummingbird, hand-painted in gold and violet. I know I wasn't the kindest, she whispered. And I don't expect things to be perfect. But I'd like us to try. I nodded. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was honesty. And honesty was a start. Later that spring, the garden house began hosting seasonal retreats. Writers, artists, counselors, brides-to-be who needed more than just a venue. They needed quiet, safety, space to breathe. I partnered with local women-owned businesses, bakers, florists, caterers. Even Lisa came down to run weekend yoga sessions after officially separating from Brian. She looked lighter, happier. She stayed in the old guest room during her visits and often joked, "Can I just move in already?" We'd lie on the grass some evenings, stargazing like teenagers, talking about what healing really looked like. "It's not forgetting," she once said. "It's remembering without breaking apart." I smiled. "It's choosing peace even when the past knocks again." One night, as summer crept in, I hosted an anniversary party for Jeremy and Allie. They were the first couple to get married at the garden house, and they'd become close friends over the months. "Your place changed our lives," Allie said during a toast, her eyes shining. "We thought we were just booking a venue. We didn't know we were walking into someone's legacy." That word, legacy, it stayed with me, because for so long, I'd thought mine was just a collection of broken pieces. A bedroom painted over. A family that misunderstood me. A voice I buried for years to keep the peace. But here I was, standing in the center of something I built. And it was blooming. I created a small community garden on the property's edge and named it Lillian's Corner, after Grandma. We offered free space for local kids to grow vegetables, and every Saturday, volunteers came by to weed, water, and laugh. Even Mom showed up once. She brought lemon bars and sat on the bench, watching the children run. "You've done something beautiful here," she said quietly. "I'm not done," I replied. She nodded. "That's even more beautiful." For the first time in years, our conversations no longer ended in tension. We were finding our way, not perfectly, not all at once, but with patience. One Sunday afternoon, as I sat journaling on the porch, a young woman named Marissa approached me with teary eyes. She was the cousin of a recent bride and had spent the weekend wandering the gardens alone. "I just wanted to thank you," she said, voice shaky. "This place that healed something in me. I didn't even know I needed healing." I offered her a tissue and a hug. That happened more often now. People came here for events, but left with clarity, strength, hope. And I realized that my revenge hadn't been cruel or vindictive. It had been constructive. They took my space.
So I built a sanctuary.
They silenced my voice. So I turned it into a calling. They underestimated me. So I stood taller, firmer, rooted in my own story. I no longer needed to prove anything. Not to Jessica.
Not to Mom.
Not even to myself. I had already become the woman I once needed as a child. One who protects her space. One who chooses grace, but not passivity. One who creates beauty from pain. As autumn approached, I received a letter. Not an email. A handwritten note. From Jessica. She wrote, "I was always so sure you were the sensitive one. But now I realize that sensitivity is strength. That your silence wasn't weakness. It was survival. I'm sorry for every time I made you feel small. If my daughter grows up to be anything like you, I'll consider myself lucky." I folded the letter gently, tears welling, and tucked it into the same drawer with Grandma's letter opener and the old photograph. The drawer was full now. Of history. Of change. Of proof that healing wasn't just possible, it was earned. On the 1-year anniversary of reclaiming the house, I hosted an open house event. The place was packed, vendors, neighbors, former clients, even people I didn't know who'd simply heard about the garden house. We planted a new tree in the backyard. A cherry blossom, the same kind that used to bloom outside my childhood bedroom window. When the final shovel of dirt was patted down, I stood back, breathing deeply. The sky was soft pink. The guests clapped gently. A breeze carried flower petals across the lawn like confetti. And I heard Grandma's words again, like a whisper carried in the wind. "Never be afraid to grow where someone tried to bury you." I smiled. Because I hadn't just grown. I had blossomed. The sun dipped behind the trees, casting golden light across the white-painted porch. I placed the hummingbird figurine beside a new framed photo. Jeremy and Allie's smiling faces glowing under the garden arch. Laughter drifted from inside the house, mingling with music and the scent of fresh-cut roses. And as I stood there, heart full and arms open, I realized that this was more than revenge. It was resurrection, rebirth, a new chapter in a home I had once lost and now fully claimed. My past no longer held me hostage. It simply rooted me deeply so I could rise.